sorry, this, excuse me. It's got to be down on the ground. Okay.
But there's someone stationed there, so...
Well, there are people sitting here and we need to be behind them to serve them.
Someone explained like this one. Is there room at the big kids' table?
This much better?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, if this is here, that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. And yeah. One more. Where's your card? Show him forward.
So our mic's here. Yeah. So I'm gonna leave it on because it's safer that way. So this is basically our mic. It's a radio lapel mic. It uses a radio frequency.
Is this how guys are leaving the mics here?
Yeah.
This is very amateur, yeah?
No, but you can't see it on the camera. Can't see it on the camera. Should I get a tape?
No, maybe we can just do like a...
Okay.
Yeah. How's that?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Cool.
So this is
Yeah. 1 2 1 2 1 2. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Yebo 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 yes. Dabarabram kunda tapi pa. Babarapi pipi papa pia papa. 1 2 1 2 moja. Can get my sound now. Can get my sound now. 1 2 3 1 2 3. Excuse me.
It's an honor and a privilege for me to be given the opportunity by the Cape Town Press Club to address you and your medium on the book that I have written. Before I go any further, I'm a devout Christian, and I was brought up not religiously but strongly spiritually. Therefore, the first time I make the public address on my book, I have to thank God Almighty for the strength and the ability He granted me to write this book. And then thank my family thereafter. And thank the ANC of the past that supplemented and reinforced lessons of honor and truthfulness that I was taught by my family, first and foremostly, and by the church secondly. My book, I think, is an easy read. It emanates from my autobiography that I began to write when I was approaching age 40. I was already a member of parliament when I started the autobiography, writing it. Then when I went out of parliament, I realized that there was about 10 years of unaccounted for, that I needed to incorporate into the autobiography. And once I was done, I knocked at various doors of various publishers, locally here at home and internationally. And after moving from 6 publishers, I decided to self-publish because I was not seeing my voice. My voice was becoming lost in the various demands that are made by various publishing houses. So this book, actually, eventually the last 3 publishers said the autobiography was too long and too thick, and they suggested that it was actually 3 books in one. And they guided me to subdivide it into 3 books. What became of the middle book is what we are talking about today, No Holy Cows. So there is, the autobiography is still there. It's ready to be published, but I did not want to publish 2 books or 3 books at the same time. So I decided to start with the middle one, because the middle one is kind of also touching on the current happenings in our country, even though it is also, it's touching on what happened the last 12 years or so. The book has got many, about 30 chapters, smallish chapters, but there are 6 long ones. I think this was it's my deliberate nature as with an education background to think about your audience when you write, who would read your book. So because of the huge following that I have in the country since the exposure of state capture, when I wrote this book, I had every single South African in mind. So I tried to make it as simple as possible and the chapters as short as possible. So that informs the short chapters. Every chapter is a kind of a political occurrence or a political milestone or an intervention that I made in the political space or in an event that affected me personally. Some of the events were life-threatening. Others was my intervention that were life-enhancing to others that are forever so challenged by so many things, especially women, young women, who are often challenged by sexual harassment that is made to be a step ladder for them to ascend or to go higher or further in the political hierarchy. I don't want to waste time. there are key events that some of them you might have read about in the newspapers when I was still a member of parliament. Others you might also have read about them when I was not a member of parliament. So I kind of give a little bit of elaboration on those events. Some issues you'll be hearing for the first time in the book. But South Africans, I must confess, are very, do not have an eye for detail, generally speaking. Most of these things, including the state capture matter, the Gupta matter, I had raised the Gupta matter on my Facebook wall very sharply, sharper than I did last year when they landed their private jet at the Waterkloof military base. But South Africans, being South Africans, the media included, that became water under the bridge. And then for some reason, it became a big issue when I raised the same matter 3 years down the line. The reason why I chose to write this book is around that time last year in March, I was called all sorts of names, but I realized that actually many people do not know who Vytjie Mentor is. Many people think that I've begun to criticize the ANC only last year or whilst I was out of parliament. So I've made an account of not my total interventions or involvement in the political space prior to coming to parliament, during parliament, and after being a member of parliament. Also just to make people to realize more what kind of a person I am. I've been asked the question many a times, why only now? Maybe if I must preempt you, also your question. The Bible that I read often says that there is always a time for everything. There is a time for being born, there is a time for dying. There is a time for crying, there is time for laughter. There is time for reflection, and there is time for action. Probably I went into some reflective mode. When you exit being deployed by your party, I don't know what kind of a human, what does it take, what type of a human being does it take to exit a system and to be immediately able to, without sitting back, reflecting, and re-looking into the system from a vantage point of being outside the system. What kind of a human being just exits and without reflecting does all sorts of things? On my side, there was also the issue of injuries, gruesome ones, a freak accident, deliberately caused, that could have costed me my life and my leg. That also not only did not give me time, long time in hospital to think about issues, but also to think about when and how I would introduce those things to the public domain. Lastly, as I come towards concluding my preliminary briefing to you on the book, I had a close friend that I grew up with that became a premier and a minister in Zuma's cabinet as well, particularly. There was a time when I said to her, my sister, I'm going to write about these things. These things need to be known. They need to be told. And she said to me, my sister, write that book or those books and put them in your safe and instruct your kids that the day that you have ceased to breathe, they must publish those books. And I said to her, why should I approach it that way? And then she says, because what you are going to expose in those books is going to upset the political system largely and the ruling party. I somehow considered for a long time what she said, but with the state capture matter from last year, I decided that is not the right approach. Somebody said that I had written very directly in this book. I've called people by names. I've called events, and those that want to go to court, they can go to court. We will meet in court. In fact, I've been trying to drag Zuma to court for a long time. So it would be nice to meet him in court. I had met him on the sides of court on the issues of him wanting to block the making of the public protector state capture report, and also the issue of now him wanting a review. So it would be very nice to meet him really in court, a court that he has been evading for too long. And anyone for that matter that I have written about in this book, I've called them by name. I'm looking forward to meeting them in court if they dare me. I am trying to, if there is any legacy that I would leave behind, I want it to be a legacy of calling things by their names. Never mind how difficult it is to do so. There is a chapter in the book that I trace back the difficulties we have of sexual harassment, of corruption, back to exile. I'm not saying everybody in exile was corrupt or everybody in exile was a sexual predator. But I am saying if liberation movements, including the ruling party today, would have somehow attempted to build a culture of accountability on those issues during exile times or during apartheid times, if not immediately after the unbannings, we might have arrested this free-for-all kind of approach where corruption has become so endemic, abuse of women has become so rampant in South Africa. I have pointed out an example of what's happened. People and something like not the prosecutor general, but high officers in justice in Namibia, including SWAPO and comrades, have demanded and are getting a TRC of some sort of things atrocities that happened in the camps. Now, I am arguing that we might need that kind of thing because still to date, I deliberately chose not to go in talking about sexual harassment by Zuma. Firstly, I'm in battles and I fight them successfully. Zuma tried his luck on me on 2 occasions. He did not succeed. I dealt with him and carried on with my work. But he continued to prey on women. And maybe the regret is if I should have exposed him that time, a quasi would not have happened. So there are a few regrets in my book that I'm pointing out. That one is not any of them. But I cannot live with regret. I'm doing this now, and I hope that doing this will give many women courage to say, it doesn't matter when you were sexually harassed. If you want to speak about it, you have a right to do so, as long as you are not lying in the process. So this is my all to you. And I need to apologize to you because I am self-publishing through a company called Vytjie Industries. I do have a lot of books here, but they were proofread. I printed them for proofreading. I sent them to various people across the country to read them. So they are unedited, so I cannot give you unedited books. And yesterday, because the people that were proofreading made suggestions that I fed into a portal that brought about a little bit of new changes. So the number of pages increased slightly, and the rind of the book size increased. So they had to do a new cover to accommodate that change. I've learned a lot during this process. And I now know that the cover takes, after they redo it, you laminate it and leave it to set for 24 hours. I was saying, no, bring it on. It's okay. It doesn't matter. Then they said, no, it will be reputational risk on yourself and on our company. So we're not issuing you those books. You'll only get them after 6 p.m., which is today. So unfortunately. But I'll give you an email address, which is motherland1963@gmail.com, from which you can order your books. The little bit few that I had were only for proofreading purposes. The really totally edited ones are available only as of tomorrow, 6 p.m. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mentor. Stay here. Okay, we're going to open the floor for questions. There's another microphone. Open the floor for questions. As per our practice, we'll give the first opportunities to working journalists who may have to rush up and meet deadlines and that sort of thing. So all those with a lean and hungry looks on their faces sitting at the back there. Any questions from out there, please? No questions from the journalists?
That's good.
Sorry, Marianne Tom from Daily Maverick.
Hi, thank you, Marianne, for the Daily Maverick. What has happened to the dossier that you handed to the Hawks? You delivered this very comprehensive statement, went to the middle of the night and laid it, sort of set it out to a particular, let's say, SAPS officer in Cape Town, and that was then intercepted and sent to the Hawks in what has happened to that case that you laid? I mean, that was, it was at least over a year ago, if not. What has happened to that case?
It was in May, around the 20-something of May last year, so it's well over a year now. I don't know what happened to that. We abolished the scorpions. The hawks were put in place. We don't have the hawks anymore. I don't know where they are. We don't even have an NPA. So I don't know. I think, Mariam, do me a favor. Ask them if they are still in existence. What happened to that dossier? In fact, what happened subsequent to that? They sent people to my house, and then they said, Ms. Mentor, you have listed President as one of the culprits. You have tied our arms for as long as the President is one of the people you are citing of wrongdoing, we cannot investigate. Are you willing to drop his name? I said to them, I don't know if I'm willing to drop his name, but I'm convinced that the President is having a hand in all this. So there was a slight change to insofar as the President, but at the end I insisted that, because I had written when I gave the statement, I've elaborated on why I believed the President is the centerpiece of the whole state capture thing, how he enabled it and how he benefits with his son and others. At the end, they said that we must reach a compromise, and I will not totally exonerate him. At the end, I want to write a statement that I believe that there is a general corrupt relationship between the President and the Guptas and some boards of SOEs and some cabinet ministers that needs to be investigated. I would leave this to the NPA and the Hawks. I'm not backing off on saying that there is a corrupt relationship between the President and the Guptas and some SOEs and some ministers. I never heard about the then my aunt, that's 83, called me from Mosselbaai. Said the Hawks claim they are looking for me all over, finding me. Then they came to go a wall on my, that was the last I saw them. I spent another day, waste of time. So I don't know. Please ask them that. I would like to know the answer, the response to.
And you've got Arbra from SABC.
It's Ada, ma'am. I know you earlier said, in reference to the question, why now only, you said there's a time and a place for everything, and you do say that you get months to speak out earlier. But can you just give us an exact reason why you didn't speak out earlier? Is it because you felt you weren't ready? Do you feel that you were maybe down? Is that the reason why you never spoke out earlier?
Everything that people say I have not spoken about, they actually mean I have not spoken about publicly. Every one of these things that happened that I accounted for in the book, I had reported one way or another to somebody senior in the organization. So it was not like it was complete silence. But I think the time for my book is now. And time for the things that I'm saying in my book is now, especially when our economy has been made to bleed. The state has been captured in a manner in which it has been. We have seen a rise in abuses of women and all this. So it might not be your favorite time, but it is time that works for me.
Paul? I'm Mentor, Paul from News 24. You mentioned a couple of incidents that you obviously detailed in your book, especially two with the president. I'd just like to know the time frame you can provide for us when this was allegedly happened.
There is a chapter in the book. It's chapter
10 and 11.
My daughter is 25 years old, my firstborn child. At the conference of the ANC in Durban, Westville, remember there was first a consultative one, which was shortly followed by the 48th Conference of the ANC on South African soil. It was at Durban, Westville. My baby was 3 months old. That's when Zuma made his first sexual advances towards me. It was lunchtime. He had parked the car he was driving and he was obviously in the back seat. I was going out to nursery where my baby was kept. The mother and the father had agreed to meet lunchtime at the nursery to spend 1 hour with the child, with the baby. And when he said he would like to invite me to his hotel room, he wanted to know where I stayed, and he would arrange for someone to fetch me. I said to him, "But sir, I have a 3-month-old baby." And he said, "Don't worry, I'll make arrangements for that." So that is your time span. Dates back 25 years. And then it happened again when I was chair of caucus, when suddenly I was asking questions about certain transactions that were happening in caucus. Then my meetings with him used to be in my caucus office. Then there was a request that we shift to his office. That's what happened. Now, you can calculate for yourself how long was the ANC. It was just before, a couple of months before he was fired as deputy president. So that is your time span.
Lakani from Business Day.
From Business Day. Thank you very much. Just wanted to ask, I just wanted to ask, in light of the first response that you gave regarding police ability and propensity to keep people safe, have any of the MPs of the ANC taken you in their confidence about any reservations and concerns that they might have? We know that there are murmurs of people saying that they'll vote with their conscience in August, although they might be reluctant to speak out now, given fears that they will be out if they hear of what anything happens. But just wanted to find out if any of the members have taken you in their confidence about those concerns, about the vote itself, about their own safety, out maybe naming them, and how much faith you have in the security authorities in protecting them and ensuring that the situation is as stable as possible as they go into August. Thank you.
I just missed your last part on security.
How much faith you have that they'd be able to be protected in light of the threats that they're facing and the harassment that they're facing?
I am in touch with many ANC members at all levels But because I don't want to meddle with things in Parliament, President Thabo Mbeki used to favorably say he doesn't want to rule from the grave. So I'm kind of cautious on discussing how current serving ANC MPs will vote or may vote or what they are considering, because just touching on that topic with some of them could mean that I'm trying to influence how they would vote. I think we have all said that we are putting it to their consciences to do the right thing. But I've discussed all matters like the state capture, like the president, but the vote of no confidence, I'll be lying if I'll say to you, I have discussed it directly with any one of the serving MPs. However, I had a telephonic discussion with Dr. Khoza because I feel that I need to give her support. I would be failing in my duty. In that conversation, she told me about her dire security situation. All I could do was to comfort her. I don't want to cast aspersions and say they won't, if they request, they won't be given appropriate security protection. What if I dissuade them from accepting security from the state and then they get harmed along the way, and I have influenced their decision not to take up security protection from the state? I myself am very reluctant to take up state protection because I think I might die in the hands of the very ones that would be sent under the pretext that they are coming to look after me. However, where I live, I am surrounded, I am living next to a police station that is manned by highly professional leaders in the police services. And during moments when I panic for one reason or another, I know that I have that ear. I've done that many times. And they don't do anything that is out of the book. But where I stay, I have 100% satisfaction that the law enforcement services in the name of the police in the area are highly professional, are highly sensitive. But I cannot transport my security, my approach to my security question. I cannot want to export that to another person. I think we are all adults. ANC MPs are adults. Every single one will decide what is best for themselves. Up to so far, I'm still standing. I'm not a nervous wreck. I'm not as mad as they tell you I am, because there are those professional people that not only render a service to me, but render a service to everybody in that area, highly professionally. And I think it was God's grace that I moved to that area.
Sorry.
You mentioned that if there's anyone that you've written about who wishes to take you to court, then they should. Do you mind just name dropping a few of other people that you've written about in the room?
I touched names of people as things happened to me that were involved. Others I referred to them by title, others I referred to them by name. I've referred to Zuma by name. I have referred to Koniwe by name. I have referred to the girl that Goniwe has sexually attempted to assail by name. I have mentioned Natim Tetwa by name in terms of Marikana, in terms of how I know him, having deployed with him the many failures of leadership, but that I did not expect that a big failure of leadership would result in Marikana, but I've argued that I've seen qualities of leadership failure in him before. Excuse me, some water please. I've mentioned Natin Hleko by name, as he was the chief whip when I came to Parliament. I have mentioned John Jeffrey, as he was councillor for the president at the time, when a list of things.
I just want to know, after the sexual encounters, have you had any contact with the president again, and what was the situation like with you?
As I said, that was just a couple of months before he was forced to relinquish his post as deputy president. So as we all know, he was out of the system for a while, and then he came back as the ANC president, and he came back as the president of the Republic. And on the day that he was sworn in the chambers of Parliament, when everybody was congratulating him, I also stood and congratulated him. So I've had an encounter with him since he has become the president. In that sense, that I congratulated him after he was elected as president of the Republic.
We are from SABC.
Thank you very much for hearing from the SABC. Would you say that this culture of sexual harassment you've sketched is something that is endemic in the ANC? And secondly, were you the only one who was allegedly sexually harassed, or were there others?
Encourage victim. There are many victims that I know of. I last year dealt with sexual harassment case that was also publicly on my Facebook page of a woman in the Free State that was beaten by a member of an MP that's a member of the ANC that serves in the NCOP. They were both married. They had a kind of extramarital affairs. And then when the lady dumped him, he beat her up very badly and all those things. I know of when somebody comes to you and says, I was a victim of sexual harassment, and I had a case like 3 months ago, you don't push that person to go public if they don't want to go public, or if they want you to help them. Firstly, you counsel them. Firstly, then you ask them gently, what other help do you want me to give to you? You don't say to a person, go public. If choose to report things internally in the structure, you cannot coerce them to go public outside the structure. So I cannot say it's endemic in the ANC only. I for sure know that it's endemic in society generally. But I don't know what's happening in the EFF. I'm not there. I don't know what's happening in DA. I don't know. So I can't say there is or there is no endemic culture of sexual harassment in those political parties. But I do know for sure in the party that I come from, and in the party, in society, every day we read about these things. We read about young women being raped in universities. There is not a month, I mean, recently there was a spate of horrific things that were happening to women. So I don't know if those are not the signs that this problem is equally endemic in society. However, I usually say, when a ruling party or leadership that's ruling a country or that's leading an organization are sexual pests themselves, or don't care about sexual harassment and abuse of women, they are silently allowing the culture to grow and to fester. So I don't think, in my opinion, the NC has done enough to arrest the culture of sexual harassment of women in its ranks. And I don't believe that the South African government and South African society generally has done enough to arrest sexual harassment on women in this country.
Also from News 24, these two occasions with the president, how persistent was he in his advances, and what was your reaction at the time?
The first encounter, obviously, he was sitting in the car. I was sitting outside. He had rolled down the car window, and I was in a hurry to. So after I'm satisfied, I've told him that there is no way. In fact, incidentally, he asked me where I come from. I said I came from Kimberley, and he said that can I organize diamonds for him? And I said to him, if you want diamonds, go and speak to the BS. And then I walked away. So it was not long. But in his office, when I was chair of caucus, I thought we would have a meeting on the boardroom table as we used to have in my office. So he suggested that we must. Firstly, there were two guards. One guard remained at the door. The other guard went inside the office, me and him. And then he asked the guard to leave and told him, I'm surely not in danger of her, so can you excuse us and close the door behind you, which he did. So I was settling on the boardroom table. He says, no, let's sit comfortably on the two couches that were at 90 degrees to each other with a coffee table here. So naturally, because I had papers for the meeting, the agenda for that meeting and the minutes from the previous meeting that we had, because he was head of political committee of the ANC, I was heading caucus. I put her papers in front of her couch, but then he moved and came to sit on my couch. And I kept on moving away, and he kept on moving towards me. I kept on moving away and then I took my bag from the coffee table and put it, handbag, in between us. And then he took it. And then that is persistence. That I kept on moving away, and he kept on coming closer, tighter and tighter. And then he dared, when I create a barrier with my handbag, he did shoved, I don't know if it's how we pronounce it properly, his hand between my thighs. If that is not persistence, I don't know what is persistence, really. And that's the time at which I grabbed my bag, hit him with it, went out of his office. Then the guard outside asked me, what's happening, what happened? I said, go and ask him what happened. And then I left. So he was persistent. In the first instance, I can't say he was persistent, because it was a very brief encounter. Who are you? Are you coming from? Where? What is your hotel? Can I send someone to fetch you? No, I have a 3-month-old baby. No, I'll make arrangements for that. Don't worry. No, sir, I cannot. And then walking away. I think the second encounter, he was very persistent. It looks like we're done.
Any more questions? Okay, Donald Presley has a question for you.
Yes, Donald Presley, Cape Messenger Press Club. The predator class, if we could call them that, people who captured the state and are behaving in this way like the president, do you think they can be dislodged? The wider political question is, what's going to happen in the ANC? Are good people going to take it over again?
Dislodging the predators of the state is going to be a mammoth task, because they're deeply entrenched. They were left alone for too long. But maybe I should share something without sharing names. I think people are seeing that it is possible for the tide to turn by way of a new dispensation. I have been in conversation with a few senior public servants that are planning to come forward. That are seeking advice on how best to do it. That's how they approach it. They are also very concerned people, officials in the security sector that are willing to do their bit without causing havoc, to state what they know and what they have seen, to try and save the country. So in that way, these people can be dislodged, in that more and more South Africans, including those that are in the state at the center where these things happened or are happening, are beginning to realize that they can no longer continue to participate in facilitating those things, or they can no longer remain quiet without bringing forward information. So I think South Africans can dislodge all this that is happening. The question is how? Will it only be dislodged by a general election in 2019? And the other question, if that is the case, how much damage would have occurred between now and then? But I think it is possible. I don't want to believe that it is impossible to deal with the problems that South Africa is facing today. Coming to the ANC, what did you ask me about the ANC, Donald?
Will the good people come back? Will good people take over the ANC again?
Will good people take over the ANC again? I wish good people can take over South Africa again. Whether they come from the ANC, or they come from the EFF, or they come from DA, or they come from civil society, or they come from coalitions. I think the ANC needs a bit of space and time to deal with its mess. The mess that it has exported to the economy and to South Africa. Yes, yes, there will be a conference of the ANC in December. Yes, if Nkosazana Zuma takes over, it will be the quick end of the ANC. Yes, if Cyril takes over, it might not be as quick as when it will happen with Nkosazana. But I think we should begin to worry about South Africa more than we worry about a party that has brought us up to here so far in the mess that we are in. Yes, we don't want chaos. Yes, we don't want a civil war. I hope the ANC will correct its mess, but if you look into history, parties that came into power promising like the ANC was, that took over to become as endemically corrupt as the ANC has become today, inevitably lose power and inevitably takes a long time to recover. I don't think that, in fact, I can promise you now, there's going to be a splinter out of the ANC come December. Now, I keep on saying to South Africans, don't look for power to restore the country elsewhere. Look for it amongst yourselves. How can you expect a party that brought us to this mess to be the party that salvages the country from the same mess? That party must sort out its mess. And South Africans must take up responsibility to sort out the mess that the party has plunged South Africa into. But there are good people in the ANC system.
Who is that splinter going to be, if I may interrupt? Who's going to constitute that splinter away from the ANC, in your view?
I know there are a lot of happenings that are leading, that are pointing towards a splinter that will again, like in the main Cope came from the Eastern Cape. There is a lot of such talk in the Eastern Cape of forming a kind of party that could somehow resemble the old values, ethos. But if you ask me, I don't think that South Africa needs a new political party to save the mess we are, to salvage the mess we are in. I know for certain that I don't know, I cannot speak about people. People are complex creatures, unpredictable. But even Jessie Duarte herself, or was it Baleka or both, hinted that there could be a splinter out of the ANC. Now, what are you going to do if there is a splinter, Donald? Are you going to drop dead? The ANC is its own enemy. It's killing itself. It has killed itself and all those things. I don't know why are we so transfixed on the ANC. Why are we not transfixed on the country and fixing the country? There will be a splinter. I hope. If I'm right, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Yes, sometimes you can be wrong in your projections, but I strongly believe there is going to be one. If it's not there, if it doesn't happen, when the ANC emerges intact without a splinter post-December, is that the end of our problems? Will that be the end of South Africa's problems? I don't think so.
I'm just going to ask a question, if you don't mind, then I'll come back to you. Knowing the President as you do, on a working relationship and so on, his proposal at the ANC policy conference on 2 deputy presidents, in your mind, what do you think that is about?
He was just pushing an agenda of his faction. That is what they had been saying before the policy conference. I think that is an exercise in making sure that whichever way his faction loses, whichever way his faction wins. You know, I've actually thought a lot about Nkosazana Zuma of late and her character. And why we only seeing this character now. We all know that he was not in the Zuma camp in Polokwane. Now, of late, the way this faction is operating, I was asking myself if it was a strategy for her to be in the Mbeki camp then and Zuma to lead another camp, so that whichever way they will have a footing in either camp that will emerge victorious. I think that is a factional ploy, and it actually doesn't make sense, and it's actually laughable to say whoever competes must become number 2, must become deputy president. But the issue of 2 deputy presidents was mooted by their faction months before the policy conference. They are circulating these slates. So it's not like, in fact, they are proposing even 3 DSGs in the party and all those things. So, but what I found stupid was to say whoever is contesting and comes number 2 must become the deputy president. And I think his supporters are also saying that it's ridiculous. So,
Marianne,
just you mentioned earlier that you said there are many public servants and people in the security sector who say they're willing to come forward. But my question is this because of the discovery of the Gupta mails and the subsequent 200,000 more over and above the 110,000 that we have, where names are emerging and suddenly you can't hide anywhere? So it's only, I mean, there's a factory flaw in the ANC's ethical committees, because these people have been The Guptas just kept in the red level left off. This has been, and there's also, as we know, a lot of also apartheid security operatives who are working with this current government. So there are layers to this state capture, which somehow the ANC and the members of the ANC and the leadership of the ANC have allowed to happen because there's an ethical lacuna in the party itself. And it's only because of the Gupta emails that people are now shitting themselves, thinking, where are they going to find my name in these emails, that they're coming forward. I mean, would you agree with that? Or is there a backbone that's been in a storeroom somewhere? Because the extent of the state capture is so massive that it's going to take us decades to recover.
Yes.
And that we paid 30 million for a wedding ourselves. Congratulations, taxpayers. And this happened under the ANC's watch, the weakening of Chapter 9 institutions, the weakening of the NPA, and we have allowed this. Parliament has allowed this. And you were there.
What is your question?
My question is, do you think the Gupta emails has suddenly prompted this cascade and this sense of finding a backbone amongst those who wish to rescue the ANC, splinter off from the ANC, or do we need to start with a completely clean slate?
I think that is a high possibility. It is a very high possibility. It is possible that, in fact, that's the one possibility. The second possibility is that, which is related to the first possibility, is that they were participating themselves. You know, like of some sort. So if people come forward, they might be hoping that they would reduce the impact of being held accountable if they come forward before they are caught or they are exposed. That is possible. But my modus operandi, whenever somebody says that I have piece of information that I want to share with you, firstly I do my homework and I do a background check of those people. And then after I do my background check, I say, yes, what is your story? And then they tell their story, and I say, I will go and apply my mind. So going to apply my mind means I'm going to check what are the reasons and is there substance in what is being alleged. And when I return, I ask, where were you? Have you fully disclosed what you yourself were doing and all those things? And in that way, that's how I managed to put pieces of puzzles together. Yes, it might be, in fact, somebody would say, I was there when something happened, when so-and-so signed this thing. Others would say, so-and-so forced me to sign for this and that contract. Yes, on face value, it's information, but why, it's another step. I can never know for sure. There would always be hidden reasons. There would always be reasons of self-preservation. But it could also be possible that people were doing this in their corners, not realizing that the scale is so huge. Now the scale is carrying them and they can see that the tide is turning. So now they want to save their skin because Zuma will go to Dubai. Where will they go to? We will catch them. So I don't know.
Great. Any other questions?
This is the last question.
Civil society question.
All right, civil society question. In fact, second last question. I've got one short question.
Given the fate of Suna Fanta, rest in peace. Given the fate of Suna Fanta, may she rest in peace. Obviously, Makosi Koza is under great threat, and I assume you're also receiving intimidation as well. And the fact that the NPA, security, SAPS, and all the official security people are toothless. How many other MPs are you aware of other MPs that are under pressure or being intimidated? And also, given the fact that Umzila van Dam intimated that she knew who was behind all the intimidation, are you aware of who they are and why they're not being brought to book?
You mean who are the people that are intimidating them?
The thugs that are doing intimidation, the shooting in the faces, and on the orders of whoever.
I know who are the thugs that are trying to intimidate me. But I would be lying if I would tell you I know who is intimidating Dr. Koza or the few. And incidentally, the people that have told me they are being intimidated around the vote, I think I only know of about 3 women other than Dr. Koza. I don't know who is intimidating them. If I ask them who is intimidating you, what am I going to do with it? What is important is that they are being intimidated, and generally I can give advice of what they should do. But once I ask them, as if I'll protect them from those guys, those thugs, do you know who is intimidating you? No, go and lodge a complaint. Take precautions, be extra careful. I know of 3 female MPs other than Dr. Koza that are being threatened.
Who's threatening you in particular?
Zuma supporters and beneficiaries of state capture.
Are any of them members of the security forces?
Others, I think, 2 I think are. I can share with you that I got a call from the Northern Cape from a person that is a retired spy that was sent by somebody to warn me. Not that that person that's warning me is threatening me, is telling me to be aware of certain things, and but because this other person does not want to disclose who they are, that wants to warn me, rather sends an old retired spy that's from the Northern Cape, because I'm from the Northern Cape, to take a flight and to come and tell me to be careful and to watch my back. So others are stupid. I mean, the most stupid ones that I don't worry about are the ones that threaten me openly on Facebook. Those ones really. Because I come from here, I just insult them a little bit and get rid of them. But the more serious ones are the big shots that you don't obviously see. But you see, fear, it's I sometimes say, and people think I'm naive when I say, these threats, I will not take them into consideration to a point where I am paralyzed, not to continue doing what I have been doing. Because sometimes they don't really mean it that they would kill you. They just want to shut you up. But when you begin to feel that it's getting serious, then you take the precaution that you are supposed to.
But they killed Sudan.
But what happened to the journalist that Mendy Rousseau that uncovered Nkandla? We don't know who killed her, we don't know whatever, and Suna was called by heartbreak syndrome.
By implication.
Yes, by implication. So people will fall one by one, and there will be reasons given why they are falling.
So you've been on the floor for a while now.
Yes.
Are you willing to take 1 or 2 more questions? And then we'll put it there. Paul, do you still have a question to ask? All right, 1 more.
I'd just like to know, do you know of any men in the party who have been receiving intimidation at all? Could we perhaps draw conclusions that you mentioned like 4 different women in the party who have been intimidated? Could that perhaps be a deliberate thought out decision?
No, I know of one man that was that has joined the DA out of those kind of threats and whatever made, in fact 2. One has decided to join the DA that's in the Northern Cape, and one was made to vacate his office, but he's back in office. But it was not necessarily related to the vote of no confidence. It was related to their articulations on state capture, and they are seen to be supporting me. But the women that I'm talking about them because I was asked I know of other women that have, other people that have been threatened, like Dr. Koza has been. Soft target in terms of being intimidated. I think that pattern is emerging, yes.
And my last question is, the motion no confidence is scheduled for August the 18th.
The 8th.
18th. Oh, sorry. 8th. It seems that the ANC will vote in favour of keeping the president in office and all of that. What will that tell us? Irrespective of the votes in secret or open, what will tell us that about the state of the ANC?
What would them voting for Zuma tell South Africans about the state of the ANC? It will reinforce the message that I'm giving to South Africans over and over again, that the ANC is not having the will, nor the capability currently to do right, to do the right things, to save South Africa.
Thank you. Ms. Mentor, before you go, on behalf of the children's service, we have a more gift for you for your time. It's drawn by our in-house cartoonist, Tony Grogan. So if you look at it and you don't like it, you know where to find the man immediately.
Below that camera. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Sorry?
You have to show it.
Oh yeah. To the press club, thanks Donald, thanks everybody. Thank you very much. It's truly appreciated.
And then copies of the book on sale here. How much is it?
Not this one, they've got too many errors.
Oh, all right, fine. But they can email you.
Yeah, they can email.
Fine.
Excuse me, I forgot to announce that the book will also soon be available at exclusive books and bargain books.
Now we're just going to hold the book.